A vector, which is a one-dimensional array of elements of the same type, is very much like a single column in an Excel worksheet. A matrix, on the other hand, which is a two-dimensional array of elements of the same type, is very much like an Excel worksheet, except that it specifies additional restriction, which is that all the elements of the matrix must be of the same type. If you are interested in collecting data on the age, weight, and height of 3 students in a school, you could use any of two approaches that involves 3 vectors. You will have to bind the vectors together in a matrix. The cbind and rbind functions are useful for binding vectors together in a matrix. The first approach requires that each of 3 vectors provides the same data for the 3 different students. For example, this vector student underscore age will provide the ages for the 3 students. The next vector student underscore weight will provide the weights for the 3 students. And the third vector student underscore height will provide the height for the 3 students. Although we have successfully put this data in 3 objects which are vectors, and vectors are very much like disjointed columns of an Excel worksheet, it will be very nice to put all these data together into a single object. You can use the cbind function to bind these columns of data together into a single object. The resulting object will be a matrix. This is the call to the cbind function, and the arguments supplied to the function are student underscore age, student underscore weight, and student underscore height, which are the vectors created earlier. If I execute this function, R will create a matrix, bind these vectors and put them in the matrix, and associate that matrix with the name student underscore data. Let's print student underscore data to find out its content. You have the data for each student organized as if it were in an Excel worksheet. These are the names of the students, and these are the variables for which data have been collected, that is, student age, student weight, and student height. In this first approach, I have used the cbind function to bind 3 vectors together. Each vector holds the same piece of data for the 3 students. In the next approach, I will create 3 vectors, each of which will hold the data for a specific student. I will then use the rbind function to bind the vectors together. There are 3 statements here that I want to execute at the same time. They are separated with semicolon. For each statement, a vector is created that holds the data for a specific student. Since there are 3 students, there are 3 vectors. A vector assigned to the name John, a vector assigned to the name Mike, and a vector assigned to the name Jane. Each vector holds the data for a specific student. I will now use the rbind function to bind the vector John, Mike, and Jane together. This is the call to the rbind function. I have supplied three arguments to the function called John, Mike, and Jane. These three vectors will be bound together and put in a matrix. The matrix will be assigned to the name the same underscore student underscore data. Let's print the variable the same underscore student underscore data to find out its content. The content of the variable the same underscore student underscore data and student underscore data are the same. In both cases, a matrix is assigned to the variable.